Captain Elias Rowan tightened his grip on the control lever of the hovercraft as it glided over the rocky terrain of the remote moon. The sky above was a strange swirl of green and gold, lit by twin suns that made the barren landscape shimmer, like broken glass. Elias had been here before on scouting missions for rare minerals, but nothing could have prepared him for what he would find today. He spotted movement ahead, small, quick, and desperate. At first, he thought it might be some native creature like the skittering rock lizards he had seen before. But as he got closer, his heart skipped a beat. There, huddled among jagged stones, was a small figure, no bigger than a human child, trembling and alone. Its skin glowed faintly in soft blue tones, and its large, round eyes seemed to hold both fear and intelligence. Elias slowed the hovercraft and approached carefully. "Hey there," he said softly, holding out a hand. "I won't hurt you." The child froze, then whimpered, stepping back. Elias noticed the faint burns and cuts on its arms and legs as if it had fallen or been attacked. He frowned. Whoever or whatever had done this had not been gentle. He knelt down, keeping his voice calm. "You're safe now. Come on, let me help you." Slowly, the child crept toward him, still wary. Elias gently lifted it into his arms, feeling its tiny body shiver. "Don't worry," he said. "I'll take care of you." Back in the hovercraft, Elias checked the child more closely. Its breathing was shallow, and the burns on its arms needed treatment. He used his medical kit to clean the wounds and applied soothing gel. The child flinched, but stayed silent, staring at Elias with wide, luminous eyes. There was a strange intelligence in those eyes, a curiosity that reminded him of humans despite the alien features. As he worked, Elias's mind raced. This child wasn't human, that was clear. It belonged to one of the many alien species that lived in the nearby star systems. Some of them were peaceful, others dangerous. And this one, he had no idea. A sudden noise outside made him tense. A low hum growing louder, vibrating through the rocks. The child stiffened, curling into him. Elias moved to the edge of the hovercraft and peered out. In the distance, a group of tall, slender beings approached, moving with purpose. Their skin shimmered in shades of silver and green, and they carried strange, glowing tools that seemed both weapon and technology. Elias's heart pounded. "Oh no," he whispered. "They're here for it." The beings stopped at the edge of the clearing, their eyes scanning, and then they spotted the hovercraft. One of them stepped forward and raised its hand in a gesture that seemed both command and question. Elias realized they were intelligent. More than that, they were clearly looking for the child. He had a choice: leave quietly and risk the child being taken, or protect it. Elias's instincts made the decision. He gripped the control lever tighter. "I'm not letting them have you," he said softly to the child. "We're getting out of here." The hovercraft lifted off, just as the aliens began to move toward him. He banked sharply, navigating the jagged terrain with precise maneuvers. The aliens followed, moving faster than anything he had seen, but the hovercraft was faster in short bursts. Elias pushed it to its limits, heart racing, mind sharp. Every twist and turn mattered. One mistake could cost him, and the child, everything, hours, passed as they fled across the barren moon. Elias found small caves and high cliffs, using them as cover, and at every moment, he felt the eyes of the aliens on him. They didn't attack directly. They were watching, learning, assessing him. Elias realized something important. They respected strength and intelligence. If he made a clever move, they would hesitate. If he panicked, they would strike. By nightfall, he reached the edge of a deep canyon. The child had been quiet for hours, finally curling against his chest as exhaustion took over. Elias set the hovercraft down and checked the child again. Its breathing was steadier, but it needed rest. He found a small sheltered spot nearby, protected from the wind, and laid down a thermal blanket. As the twin moons rose, casting long shadows across the rocky surface, Elias sat beside the child, keeping watch. He thought about what he had done. By taking this child, he had made powerful enemies. Whoever its family, or tribe was, they would not forget. But he also knew he had no choice. Compassion, courage, and instinct had led him here, and he could not abandon the child now. Suddenly, he noticed movement at the edge of the canyon. Eyes glimmered in the darkness, silent, watching. Elias stiffened but did not move. The child stirred slightly, but did not cry. Elias whispered, "Don't worry, I've got you." The night was long. Elias kept the child warm, fed it some rations, and listened to the strange sounds of the moon. For the first time in his life, he felt a connection so strong that fear and caution became secondary. This wasn't just an alien being. This was life, vulnerable and innocent, and it was his responsibility. As dawn broke, painting the canyon in gold and green light, Elias stood and looked out across the barren land. He knew this was only the beginning. The child's people would not rest until they found it. And when they did, Elias had no doubt they would test him. But for now, he was ready. Humans were not known for giving up easily. And as he looked down at the sleeping child, he whispered to himself, "I'll protect you, no matter what comes." The twin suns rose higher, signaling a new day, full of challenges, dangers, and unknown journeys. And Captain Elias Rowan, human, among the stars, had just begun a story that would change not only his life, but the fate of a species he had barely met. Captain Elias Rowan watched the horizon as the first light of the twin suns stretched across the barren moon. He had kept the child safe through the night, but he knew it wouldn't be enough. The Lauren mother, whoever she was, would not rest until her child was returned, and the beings he had glimpsed at the edge of the canyon were only the scouts. The main force was coming. He carried the child back to the hovercraft, careful not to jostle its small, fragile body. "We need to move," he whispered. "They won't give up easily." The child, still trembling, wrapped tiny arms around his neck, as if trusting him despite the alien world around them. The hovercraft lifted off, gliding over the rocky plains. Elias scanned for routes that were hard for the Lauren to follow, using cliffs, narrow canyons, and natural obstacles to his advantage. He didn't know much about their technology, but he guessed it relied on speed and vision. If he could hide in shadow or outmaneuver them, he had a chance. Hours passed. The child remained silent, leaning against him, occasionally glancing at him with those glowing, intelligent eyes. Elias didn't speak much either. Words were useless now. Every move, every decision could mean survival or failure. In the distance, shimmering forms appeared. The Lauren scouts had found him again. They moved quickly, almost gliding, but always measured, observing his tactics. Elias tightened his grip on the controls. "You're not getting them today," he muttered. The child stirred slightly as if sensing the danger, and Elias felt a surge of protectiveness stronger than anything he had known. He ducked into a narrow canyon, the hovercraft scraping close to the jagged walls. The Lauren followed, but their movements were less precise in the tight space. Elias's mind worked fast, calculating turns, dips, and sudden rises. With every twist, he managed to stay ahead, pushing the craft's engines to the limit. Finally, he reached a cliffside that overlooked a vast crater. He landed the hovercraft and set the child down carefully. "We need a safe place to rest for a while," he said. The child did not answer but crawled beside him, exhausted. Elias led it to a small cave hidden behind the rocks, just wide enough to shelter them both. Inside, Elias examined the child more closely. Its wounds were healing slowly, but he had to keep it warm and fed. He tore small strips of rations and mixed them with water, creating a soft paste. The child accepted it hesitantly, licking it with careful movements. Elias smiled faintly. "Good. You're eating. That's important." Outside, the wind howled, carrying faint metallic sounds. The Lauren scouts, moving cautiously, searching. Elias could hear them, could feel their presence through the vibrations in the rocks. They were patient, not attacking, but testing him. Every sound, every movement mattered. One mistake, and he could lose the child. Night came again, colder and darker than the last. Elias sat close to the child, wrapping it in his jacket. "You're safe with me," he whispered, though he wasn't entirely sure it was true. The Lauren were intelligent, powerful, and relentless. But humans had one thing that many species underestimated: endurance, creativity, and courage. He thought about his life back on the colony, about missions, orders, and rules. None of that mattered now. This was no longer about survival or duty. It was about compassion, protecting someone smaller, weaker, and alone. It reminded him why humans had thrived among the stars. They cared, they acted, and they never gave up. Hours later, faint lights appeared at the cave entrance. Elias froze. The Lauren had tracked them again, but instead of rushing in, they stopped watching. The lead figure, tall and majestic, raised a hand in what seemed almost like a question, not a threat. Elias realized the Lauren were studying him. They wanted to understand his behavior. He looked down at the child, sleeping peacefully now. He had to show them that humans were not weak, not easily scared, and not cruel. He needed to demonstrate intelligence and patience. Slowly, he rose, keeping his movements delineating. Captain Elias Rowan guided the hovercraft cautiously over the uneven terrain, keeping an eye on the glowing child in his arms. Its small body was curled against his chest, exhausted but slowly regaining strength. Elias had hoped the night would bring safety, but as the suns climbed higher in the sky, he saw movement in the distance. Tall, elegant figures moving with purpose. They were fast, sleek, and impossible to ignore. The Lauren had found them again, and this time, they were not scouts. Elias's heart sank as he realized the full force of the mother and her guardians were approaching. Their leader, taller than the rest, moved with authority, her silver and green skin shimmering like molten metal in the sunlight. Elias's mind raced. There would be no hiding this time. He landed the hovercraft behind a jagged ridge and stepped out cautiously, keeping the child close. "Stay with me," he whispered. "I won't let anyone hurt you." The child's eyes glowed faintly, reflecting both fear and trust. The Lauren leader, the mother of the child, stepped forward, her gaze fixed firmly on Elias. She moved with confidence, her every motion calm, but powerful. Elias could feel her intelligence, her authority, and her awareness of every detail. He took a deep breath. Humans had survived in the galaxy because they faced challenges with courage, strategy, and determination. This was another challenge, but it was unlike anything he had ever faced. "You have taken my child," she said, her voice calm yet commanding, resonating in a strange musical tone that carried easily across the rocks. Elias did not understand the words, but he felt the meaning clearly. He raised his hand slightly, showing he meant no immediate harm. "I found your child hurt," he said carefully. "It was alone and in danger. I only wanted to help." The Lauren mother paused, studying him. Elias noticed subtle movements from her companions, some tense, ready to act, others hesitating. The mother's gaze never wavered. She was testing him, measuring his intent and his courage. Elias knew that direct force would fail. The Lauren were fast, intelligent, and strong. Any attempt to fight would be foolish. He needed another approach: intelligence and empathy. He knelt, slightly, keeping his posture non-threatening. "I didn't mean to take your child," he continued. "I only wanted to make sure it was safe. It was hurt badly and I couldn't leave it alone." The child stirred in his arms, sensing the tension between the two adults. Elias gently placed it on the ground, keeping his hands close in case it tried to flee. The Lauren mother watched, the child, her movements careful, measured. Elias could see a flicker of something in her eyes: confusion, curiosity, perhaps respect. Suddenly, one of the Lauren advisors stepped forward, a silver glow radiating from its body. It gestured sharply toward Elias, clearly urging action. The mother raised her hand, signaling restraint. Elias realized something crucial. She valued intelligence and careful thinking over impulsive strength. Thinking quickly, Elias lowered his gaze slightly, showing humility, but spoke firmly. "I can help your child recover fully," he said. "I can keep it safe from danger. If you trust me, I will not let harm come to it." The mother stepped closer, her eyes never leaving his. Elias could feel the intensity of her focus, the weight of her decision. The child looked up at both of them, its small glowing eyes full of curiosity. Elias knew the bond he had begun to form with it was strong. He could not allow fear to drive his actions. He had to act with courage and clarity. For several long moments, neither moved. The wind whistled through the rocks, carrying the faint hum of alien energy from the mother's companions. Elias's mind raced, thinking of strategies, escape routes, and ways to communicate his intentions clearly. Then he made a choice. He would show respect while demonstrating strength, not through violence but through careful action. He picked up a small crystal from the ground and held it out, not as a weapon, but as a symbol. "See this?" he said, letting it catch the sunlight. "It is fragile, yet it can survive careful handling. Your child is like this, fragile yet resilient. I will protect it as carefully as this crystal." The mother's gaze softened slightly, her posture relaxing. Elias sensed a shift. She was beginning to understand that humans had qualities worth respect: empathy, intelligence, and courage. These were traits that could bridge worlds, even when instincts might urge conflict. At that moment, a sudden disturbance rocked the ground. A group of rogue aliens, opportunistic and dangerous, emerged from behind nearby cliffs. They had been watching, waiting for a chance to attack. The mother and her advisors shifted instantly, ready to defend their child. Elias reacted without thinking, positioning himself between the child and the threat. He moved with precision, using the terrain and his knowledge of strategy to create barriers and distractions. The Lauren watched closely, analyzing his actions. Elias could feel the tension, the anticipation, and the weight of every decision. The rogue aliens advanced, but he managed to delay them long enough for the mother and her forces to engage effectively. After a tense few minutes, the threat was neutralized. The rogue aliens retreated, and silence returned to the canyon. Elias stood panting, sweat on his forehead, the child safe behind him. The Lauren mother stepped forward, her gaze now filled with a mixture of awe and gratitude. She had seen firsthand the courage, strategy, and protective instinct of a human. She extended a hand, not in aggression, but in acknowledgement. Elias hesitated, then nodded. The tension remained, but a bridge had been built between two very different worlds. The child, sensing the shift, crawled toward the mother cautiously, then turned back to Elias. Its glowing eyes reflected trust and attachment to both beings. Elias smiled faintly. In that moment, he realized the journey ahead would be about more than survival. It would be about understanding, respect, and cooperation across species. The suns climbed higher, casting long shadows, signaling the start of a new day. Elias knew this encounter had changed everything. The Lauren mother had seen the strength, intelligence, and courage of a human firsthand. And Elias had learned that even in the face of unknown worlds and dangerous challenges, compassion and bravery could create bonds that no threat could break. As he watched the mother take her first steps toward fully reclaiming her child, Elias whispered softly, "We've only just begun." The suns were high in the sky, casting the barren moon in sharp light, as Captain Elias Rowan and the Lauren mother, High Matriarch Elara, faced an unexpected threat. From behind the rocky cliffs, a group of alien marauders emerged, their eyes glowing with greed and malice. They had clearly been watching, waiting for an opportunity to strike. Elias instinctively moved in front of the child, but Elara stepped beside him, her presence commanding and powerful. For the first time, Elias realized that survival alone would not be enough. To keep the child safe, he would have to work with Elara. Humans and Lauren were different, yes, but both shared one crucial quality: the desire to protect those they cared for. The marauders advanced with speed, their weapons humming with deadly energy. Elias ducked behind a jagged rock, quickly analyzing the terrain. "We can use the cliffs to our advantage," he whispered to Ilara. She nodded slightly, her silver and green skin shimmering in agreement. Though words were limited, understanding passed between them, a silent plan forming in the heat of danger. Elias moved first, drawing the attention of the attackers. He leapt from rock to rock, using human agility and quick thinking to confuse them. Ilara followed, her movements fluid and precise, creating a coordinated defense. Together, human and alien formed an unusual but effective team. The Marauders were strong, but they were not prepared for their opponent's creativity. Elias used rocks, shadows, and small energy bursts to mislead them, while Ilara manipulated the ground beneath with her abilities, creating barriers and obstacles. The two of them, so different in appearance and culture, fought with a rhythm that surprised even themselves. Amid the battle, the child watched from a safe spot, glowing softly with curiosity. It had already begun to recognize Elias as a protector, a guardian who would not let harm come to it. And now it began to see Ilara in a new light, not as a stranger but as its mother and ally. Minutes passed like hours. The Marauders' attacks became more aggressive, but human ingenuity and Lauren precision held strong. Elias realized that fear would not win here. Strategy, courage, and trust were the weapons that mattered most. He signaled subtly to Ilara, pointing toward a narrow canyon exit. They needed to drive the Marauders into a trap where both could act effectively. Ilara nodded, understanding immediately. She moved swiftly, her companions following her lead. Elias used the hovercraft as a distraction, skidding it across the rocky surface to draw the Marauders closer. The trap worked. The narrow canyon channeled the attackers into a confined space, where Elias and Ilara could control the fight. Together, they turned the tide. The Marauders, overwhelmed by coordination and unexpected tactics, began to retreat. Elias and Ilara stood side by side, breathing heavily but unbroken. The child ran to them, glowing softly with relief, and Elias gently scooped it up, holding it close. Ilara stepped forward, her eyes meeting Elias's. Though she said nothing, the meaning was clear. She respected him. She had seen his courage, intelligence, and compassion firsthand, and she realized that humans, despite their fragile appearance, possessed qualities that could rival the strong. The journey to Lauren territory was long and tense. Captain Elias Rowan guided the hovercraft across strange alien landscapes, with cliffs that shimmered under twin suns and valleys filled with glowing plants. The child rested safely in his arms, its small body now stronger but still fragile. Beside him, High Matriarch Ilara flew with silent grace, her eyes scanning the horizon for any sign of danger. As they approached the heart of Lauren lands, Elias could feel the weight of what was about to happen. This was unfamiliar territory, both physically and culturally. He knew that the Lauren did not take outsiders lightly. There would be tests, rituals, and judgments to prove his intentions, and unlike a human colony, failure here could mean being cast out, or worse. When they reached the grand Lauren city, carved into cliffs and glowing with natural energy, Elias's breath caught. Towers of crystal and metal stretched into the sky, connected by bridges that shimmered like light across water. Lauren's citizens moved with elegance, their movements precise and harmonious, as if every action was part of a larger rhythm. Ilara led him to a wide courtyard where the elders awaited. Elias noticed their eyes on him, curious and cautious. The air was thick with anticipation. He understood. This was a test of loyalty, courage, and intelligence. His actions would be observed closely. One elder stepped forward, gesturing toward a set of trials. Elias listened carefully as Ilara translated. First, he would face a test of courage, a challenge designed to measure his willingness to protect the vulnerable. Next, a test of wisdom, using logic and quick thinking to navigate a dangerous scenario. Finally, a test of compassion, to see if he truly valued life beyond his own. Elias nodded firmly. "I understand," he said. Even though he had faced countless dangers in his life, he realized that these trials would be unlike any battle or mission he had ever undertaken. These were about heart as much as skill. The first trial was a simulation of danger. A holographic storm surrounded him, with falling debris and simulated threats. Elias had to reach a glowing orb at the center while avoiding harm to small, fragile creatures scattered throughout the course. He moved carefully, calculating each step. Using his human ingenuity, he built makeshift shields from nearby structures and guided the creatures to safety while advancing. The Lauren elders watched silently, impressed. The second trial tested his intellect. A complex energy puzzle blocked his path. Crystals shifted and glowed in patterns, and he had to align them. To open a gateway, Elias studied the puzzle, noting patterns and testing small moves. Using logic and careful observation, he solved it without rushing. The elders nodded slightly, acknowledging his ability to think calmly under pressure. Finally came the test of compassion. He was presented with two paths. One led to safety for himself, while the other offered protection for a group of small, delicate Lauren hatchlings trapped in a chamber. The safe route was easy, requiring minimal effort, but Elias did not hesitate. He led the hatchlings to safety, facing obstacles and minor danger along the way. The elders watched closely, their faces showing respect and approval. When the trials ended, Elias stood before the Lauren leaders, exhausted but steady. Ilara approached, her eyes gleaming with pride and relief. She spoke softly in his language. "You have shown courage, intelligence, and compassion. You have passed what most outsiders cannot." Elias smiled faintly. "Thank you. I did what any protector would do." Ilara's gaze softened. She realized something profound. Humans were unpredictable. Yes, but their hearts were strong. Elias had proven that human bravery and morality were not limited by species. A human could protect, adapt, and inspire respect even among the most advanced alien societies. The elders conferred silently, then one spoke, declaring Elias a trusted guardian. His loyalty and courage had earned him a place within their society, at least as an ally and protector of the young. Elias felt a sense of accomplishment unlike anything he had known. He had faced not just physical challenges, but moral and emotional ones, and he had passed. The child ran to him, glowing softly, and Elias picked it up. Its small hands rested on his shoulder as if acknowledging his victory. Ilara approached, placing a hand on his arm. In her silent way, she conveyed gratitude, trust, and respect. Elias understood. This bond between human and Lauren had deepened, beyond necessity. It was now built on mutual understanding and shared values. As night fell over the city, Elias looked out across the glowing towers. He realized that his journey was far from over. There would be new challenges, new enemies, and tests of trust ahead. But he also knew something powerful. Humans could earn respect anywhere, not through force alone, but through courage, compassion, and clever thinking. For the first time, he felt a true connection to an alien world, a world where his actions mattered, where his heart could bridge gaps between species, and where one human could make a lasting difference. He held the child close, glancing at Ilara, who kept a watchful eye over the city. The bond between human and alien mother had grown strong, forged through trials, battles, and shared purpose. And as he looked at the stars rising above the cliffs, Elias knew that whatever came next, he would face it with courage and loyalty. This was no longer just a story of survival. It was a story of trust, understanding, and the incredible strength humans could show when protecting the innocent. The twin suns shone brightly over the cliffs of Lauren territory, casting long shadows across the glowing city. Captain Elias Rowan stood beside High Matriarch Ilara, watching the child play among the luminous gardens. Its laughter, soft and musical, echoed across the crystalline towers, filling the space with warmth and joy. Elias felt a strange sense of calm. After so many trials, so many dangers, he finally understood the meaning of what they had achieved together. Ilara approached him, her silver and green skin shimmering in the sunlight. She moved with quiet grace, her gaze steady and calm. Elias could feel the intelligence and authority behind every motion, but also a hint of something else: trust, respect, and something he could not yet name. "You have proven yourself," she said, her melodic voice echoing gently in his ears. He did not fully understand her words, but the meaning was unmistakable. Elias had earned a place not just as protector of the child, but as an honored ally of her people. Elias looked down at the child who ran toward him, glowing softly. He scooped it up, holding it close. Its small hands rested against his chest, and for the first time in many days, he felt completely at peace. The bond they had formed was unspoken, but undeniable. He had saved this young life, and in return, it had changed his life in ways he could never have imagined. But there was more to come. Elara led him to a wide courtyard where the elders and citizens had gathered. Elias felt their eyes on him, curious and cautious. This was a formal acknowledgement, a moment to cement the trust he had earned. The elders stepped forward, their movements precise and deliberate, and one spoke. "Human," the elder said, "you have shown courage, wisdom, and compassion beyond what we have seen in outsiders. You have earned our respect and trust." Elias bowed slightly. "I only did what any protector would do," he replied. He did not speak for recognition. He spoke for the truth. Humans were not invincible, but they were capable of loyalty, courage, and understanding that could cross worlds. The elder nodded, and a soft hum of approval passed through the crowd. Elias glanced at Elara. Her eyes reflected pride, relief, and a deep sense of gratitude. They had come a long way together, from strangers to allies, from tension to trust. Later, as the suns began to set, painting the sky in shades of gold and green, Elias and Elara stood near the edge of the cliffs. The child slept peacefully nearby, exhausted from the day's excitement. Elias felt the weight of what had transpired. He had faced danger, cultural challenges, and tests of character, and emerged not only victorious but connected to a species he had barely known. Elara spoke softly, and Elias understood enough of her tone to sense the meaning. She was offering something extraordinary: continued trust, partnership, and a bond that went beyond duty. It was rare among the Lauren to extend such gestures to outsiders. Elias felt honored and humbled. He nodded in understanding. "I will protect them," he said, his voice steady. "Not because I have to, but because it is right. Because it is human." Elara inclined her head. Elias realized she recognized the truth in his words. Humans were unpredictable, yes, but their hearts could be as strong as any Lauren warrior, and courage combined with compassion could forge connections no one could break. The night deepened, and the stars above glittered like diamonds across the endless sky. Elias looked down at the sleeping child and felt an overwhelming sense of purpose. It had been a long journey, from finding the child alone on a barren moon, to evading relentless pursuers, to surviving battles and trials, and finally earning the trust of an entire species. Each step had tested him, yet each step had proven the strength of human courage, ingenuity, and empathy. Elara remained silent, but her presence spoke volumes. Elias could sense her approval, respect, and a willingness to work alongside him in the days ahead. Together they had faced danger, and together they had overcome it. Together they had formed a bond that spanned species, worlds, and the unknown. The child stirred, waking from its nap. It looked at Elias, then at Elara, its eyes glowing so